The Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to rise today and speak to third reading of Bill 9. You know, in my constituency of Edmonton Centre, there's a significant number of residents who, for a variety of reasons, have limited income. Some of these individuals are homeless, others are precariously housed, and, you know, for all of them, every dollar counts. And so when they lose even just a small amount of their income, that can sometimes mean the difference between feeding themselves or their family. It can mean the difference between having a roof over their head or their being out in the street. So as we've discussed, when these individuals receive a fine, often due to circumstances that are directly related to their poverty, or due to struggles with mental or physical health or addictions, it can begin a cycle of harm that can be very difficult to break. Along those lines, I'd like to share a story that was shared with me through my municipal counterpart, Councillor Scott McKean, who received an email from a young Indigenous man who works for a local organization that supports high-risk, marginalized youth. The young man had at some point in time received a transit fine. He wasn't able to pay the cost, both pay the cost and make his rent, so he decided to turn himself in. He didn't know where he was supposed to go or who he was supposed to deal with, so he turned up at the provincial courthouse where the ticket indicated that the fine could be paid, and he waited in line to see an officer. And when he got to the officer, he was told, "Well, no, you're in the wrong place." And so he was told he had to go over to another office in another building. So he went to that office in the other building, and then he was told there that that was also the wrong place, and he was redirected to yet another building. After being redirected twice, he was questioning whether he really even wanted to go through with this, but he went anyways. And when he got there, he found out that, yes, this was in fact the right place. He was processed, put in handcuffs, and taken into a holding room, and then eventually escorted along with some other people by remand officers to another room to wait for being processing. He described the handling of himself and other individuals as being not the kindest. They were then escorted into another room. They were forced to strip naked in front of remand officers, who, according to the young man, offered critiques and their opinions of both his body parts and those of the person in front of him. He was then given a blue jumpsuit, placed in a cold room with others who'd been through the same process. There they waited for several hours, were given a cold meal. He noted that at no time were they provided with an explanation of the process, what they could expect, or when they would be released. He was then put through the release process, allowed to dress in his own clothes, put in another room to wait, and then was finally released. In summary, in his own words, the young man stated, "My experience dealing with a traffic ticket was very degrading and dehumanizing." He also notes that at the organization he works with, he hears of similar encounters and experiences from youth even younger than he was at the time that this occurred. He concludes by stating there must be a better way, a better process than what he endured for handling a simple transit fine. Shortly after receiving that email, I had the opportunity to meet with the Minister of Justice, and I appreciated that she took the time to listen and consider the situation. I was very pleased at that time when she told me we would be introducing this bill. You know, the process that young man went through, it didn't have any benefit for anybody. There was no recompense to the transit service for the original infraction. There was no benefit to the police officers who were forced to spend their time processing, incarcerating, and then releasing this young man instead of being able to address more serious offenses. There was no benefit to the public, to whom the young man presented no danger, and who paid far more to incarcerate him for the day than the value of the fine that he wasn't able to afford to pay. And these kinds of experiences, which, as he described, were degrading and dehumanizing, they only served to further alienate the men and women who experience them from the society that they struggle with. This increases their social isolation, then the likelihood that they're going to continue to be trapped in these cycles of negative behavior, and the chances that they're again going to get caught up in the criminal justice system. So, Madam Speaker, I am very pleased to see this bill come forward and the support that it's gained in this House. It's a practical, pragmatic, and most importantly, a humane step in moving us forward in how we handle minor crimes. So thank you again to the Minister for bringing this forward. Thank you to all the members who've spoken in favour and who are going to support this bill. I look forward to passing it tonight in this House.